Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive with us. Today we're going to be looking at the Bible, but not in the way you might think.
Oh.
Yeah, so we're not going to be focusing on, as a religious text per se, but rather as a guide for like building character,
Right.
especially when times get rough.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really cool is that this time our source material is actually a translated excerpt
Okay.
from, it was originally delivered in Mandarin Chinese.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was likely part of a sermon or maybe a Bible study session, something like that.
It is fascinating to see how these ideas about character and faith, they transcend cultures and languages.
Yeah.
Like, it's a universal thing.
Totally.
And what really jumped out at me at the beginning here was this analogy that the speaker uses.
Okay.
They compare the Bible to a safe.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah. What do you think they're trying to get at with that image?
Safes are for protecting valuable things,
Uh-huh.
right? So it seems like they're saying that the Bible, it's got something super important inside,
Mm-hmm.
something worth protecting.
Right. And it got me thinking about, like, what are my own personal safes,
Yeah.
Those things that I hold dear that aren't, physical possessions.
Right. Like, what are those things that you would like really protect?
Yeah, like my values, my relationships, my memories, those kinds of things.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think for me, it would have to be my integrity
Okay.
and the trust that I build with people.
Oh, yeah.
Those are things that I would fight to protect,
Absolutely. And that's exactly what the speaker is emphasizing here.
Okay.
They're saying that actually the most valuable thing we possess, even more so than those things you just mentioned,
Okay.
is our personality,
Oh, interesting.
our character.
Okay.
They even use the English words personality and characteristics.
Really?
Yeah, to really drive this point home. So it's like the Bible is the key to building and protecting that treasure,
I like that.
who we are.
Okay, so the Bible's like the blueprint
Exactly.
for building good character.
Yes, and here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
The speaker contrasts the world's approach to self-improvement, which is often focused on like education and skills and knowledge, all those external things, with the Bible's approach, which emphasizes becoming more like Jesus.
Wow, that's a pretty high bar to set.
It is.
What do you think the speaker means by that, though?
Well, don't think it's about, like perfectly imitating everything Jesus did,
Right.
or memorizing, all his teachings word for word.
Okay.
It's more about internalizing his values.
Okay.
Like compassion, forgiveness, service to others, standing up for what's right.
So it's about who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the speaker describes the Bible as a holistic guide to cultivating these qualities.
Holistic. Oh.
Yeah, and they give examples like teaching correction reproof training.
Oh, wow.
All these different ways that Scripture can help us grow.
So it's like the Bible is like a personal trainer, but for our character.
Yeah, pushing us to be better in all these different areas.
And it provides different kinds of support, depending on what we need in the moment.
Exactly. And here's another thing that really stood out to me.
Okay.
Unlike those, sometimes rigid systems of the world, the speaker really emphasizes that the Bible offers second chances.
Mm-hmm.
It's never too late to learn and grow and change course if you need to.
Oh, that's encouraging.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. Because we all make mistakes, we all have areas where we need to improve.
For sure.
And it's comforting to know that we're not defined by, our past missteps.
Definitely. And that's like a really powerful message in a world that feels a lot of times really unforgiving.
Yeah.
But the speaker doesn't just offer comfort,
Right.
They actually say that the Bible works when it comes to shaping character.
Yeah, they do. They say it works.
Wow.
And you can just hear the conviction in their voice, even in the translation.
Yeah.
It's like they're saying, don't just take my word for it. Try it out and see for yourself.
Yeah, see the results.
Exactly. And this really speaks to that power of faith,
Yeah.
The belief that engaging with Scripture will actually lead to positive changes.
Okay, but it's not just blind faith, is it?
Right. It's not just blind faith. The
Uh-huh.
speaker seems to be saying, look around,
Mm.
look for the evidence of this transformation in your own life
Okay.
and in the lives of others.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have seen how faith can have a really positive impact on people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea of like character transformation, that's something worth digging into a bit more.
Absolutely. And it's interesting to note that, the speaker was addressing Timothy,
Oh, right.
a young leader in the early church,
Mm-hmm.
during a time that many believed were the end times.
Oh, wow. So that context is important.
It is.
Yeah.
Because it helps us to understand that, sense of urgency and intensity in the speaker's message.
Right, because if you feel like the world is ending, character becomes super important.
Exactly. Imagine living in a time where, everything feels chaotic.
Yeah.
There's moral decline.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like the world is coming to an end.
Yeah.
In that kind of situation, strong character isn't just, a nice thing to have.
Yeah.
It's absolutely essential for survival.
Right. Both individually and as a community.
Exactly.
And it makes you wonder, are we facing similar challenges today?
Yeah. I mean, the speaker mentions this whole list of vices that were prevalent at the time, things like greed, boasting disobedience, ungratefulness, lack of self-control.
Yeah, and those things feel pretty relevant today.
Don't they?
It makes you think, are we living in a similar time of moral decline?
It really does.
That's a tough question to answer.
It is.
And one we'll probably need to keep unpacking in the next part of our deep dive.
For sure.
But I think it does highlight why the speaker was so passionate about this idea of building character.
Yeah.
Through the teachings of the Bible.
Yeah.
They saw it as an antidote to the chaos and decay happening around them.
Absolutely. And in that context, this call to be Jesus's people, it takes on a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
It's not just about personal transformation anymore.
Right.
It's about standing out as a beacon of hope and light in a world that desperately needs it.
This has already been so insightful.
It has.
I love that analogy of the safe.
Yeah, me too.
And I love how we've connected that to the importance of character in tough times.
Yeah.
And now to this idea of being Jesus's people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really looking forward to exploring all this further in part 2.
Me too.
So welcome back to our deep dive into this unique perspective on the Bible. We were just talking about how important strong character is.
Right.
Especially when we're living in uncertain times.
Yeah, times of challenge.
Exactly. And it reminded me of that really cool image that the speaker used the Bible as a safe.
Yes, that analogy really stuck with me too.
It's powerful.
It really highlights how the speaker sees the Bible as, not just a bunch of stories or rules, but as something that's really vital for our well-being.
Right, like it shapes who we become.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they specifically said that the most valuable thing that we possess is our personality, our character.
Yeah, they did.
They even use those English words, personality and characteristics,
It's like they really wanted to emphasize that.
Yeah, it's like they wanted to make sure that this point transcended any language barriers.
Right.
It's like true wealth isn't about, stuff or achievements. It's about those inner qualities that make us who we are.
And they contrasted the world's way of shaping character through education and knowledge with God's way, which is through Scripture.
Yeah, that's a really thought-provoking distinction, isn't it?
It is.
Because it's not that education and knowledge are bad.
Right.
But the speaker seems to be saying that they're incomplete without that, moral and spiritual foundation that the Bible provides.
It's like they're missing something.
They are. And think of it like building a house. Education and knowledge might give you the bricks and mortar.
Okay.
But the Bible gives you the blueprint.
Right.
That underlying structure.
Oh, that's a good one.
That holds everything together.
It makes me think about how, you see people who have all the worldly success you could imagine.
Right.
The wealth, the fame, the power.
Yeah.
But if they don't have a strong moral compass, their lives can just completely fall apart.
Absolutely. And that's where the speaker's emphasis on becoming more like Jesus really comes in.
Right.
Because it's not just about, accumulating knowledge or achieving success. It's about cultivating those inner qualities that Jesus embodied.
Yeah, like compassion, humility, integrity.
Exactly. And those aren't things you can just learn from a textbook.
You can't just read about it.
Right. Those are qualities that are nurtured through a relationship with God.
Yeah.
And through a deep engagement with Scripture.
And the speaker was really specific about how the Bible guides that transformation.
Yeah.
They called it a holistic approach, encompassing teaching, correction, reproof, and training.
It's like having a personal coach, but for your soul.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, the Bible doesn't just, tell us what to do.
Right.
It helps us understand why it corrects us when we go astray.
Okay.
It encourages us to keep striving, for something better.
It's a journey.
It is. It's not about, reaching perfection overnight, but it's about continually growing and evolving towards a more Christ-like character.
And I love how the speaker emphasized that the Bible offers second chances.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It's never too late to learn and grow and start over.
It's such an important message, especially in a culture that often feels so judgmental and unforgiving.
Yeah, you mess up once and that's it.
Exactly. But the speaker's saying that, with God, there's always room for redemption, always an opportunity to turn things around.
It's hopeful.
It's about not being defined by our past mistakes, but about learning from them and allowing them to shape us into, stronger, wiser individuals.
This idea of the Bible as a source of ongoing growth and transformation is so inspiring.
It is, but the speaker didn't just talk about the process,
Right.
They actually made this bold claim.
Okay.
They said that this approach actually works.
It works.
Yeah, they said it with such conviction.
Wow.
It works. It's like they were saying, don't just take my word for it.
Yeah.
Try it for yourself and see the results.
That's powerful.
It is, and it speaks to that power of lived experience, seeing the impact of faith in your own life and in the lives of those around you.
And it's interesting that the speaker chose to emphasize this point while addressing Timothy, this young leader in the early church,
right?
During a time that many believe were the end times.
Yeah, that's a really important detail.
It is.
Because the speaker wasn't just, delivering this message out of the blue.
Right, they were speaking to a specific community.
Right, a community that was facing intense persecution, social upheaval, and a very real sense that, the world as they knew it was coming to an end.
So that adds a whole other layer to their message.
It does, and it makes you think, how can we apply this to our own lives today?
Right. Are we living in a kind of end times?
Are we?
It's a good question.
It is a time of, moral decline and societal upheaval.
Yeah, it feels like it sometimes.
It does. And if so, how does our faith equip us
to
navigate these challenges and to be a force for good in the world?
All right, so we're back, and we've been talking about this idea of the Bible as a guide for building character, especially when things get tough. And we were just sort of thinking about, how that message might be relevant to us today.
Yeah, in a world that, seems to get more and more complex and uncertain all the time.
Totally. And it's wild how these ancient teachings can still, speak to us now.
I know, it's amazing.
It really is. And we were discussing that call to be Jesus's people. And I think that's where it gets really real. What does it actually look like to live out our faith?
Yeah.
In a world that doesn't always, share our values.
That is the question, isn't it? It's easy to talk about it, but how do we actually do it?
Exactly. It's easy to say, oh yeah, I'm a Jesus person. But then
Right. How do you actually embody that?
Yeah, in your everyday life.
Well, I think the speaker intentionally leaves that kind of open-ended, It's not about following a set of rules or perfectly imitating someone.
Okay.
It's more about letting the teachings of the Bible really shape us from the inside out.
So going back to that safe analogy.
Yes.
It's about protecting that precious thing.
The treasure.
Yeah, and in this case, the treasure is our character, right?
It is.
It's about building those qualities of compassion, integrity, humility, service.
All the things that Jesus, exemplified.
So it's not so much about what we say or do.
But it's about who we are at our core.
Yeah, deep down.
Exactly. And as we grow in those qualities, they naturally start to kind of radiate outward. It's like our character becomes this beacon,
I like
drawing others towards something good and true.
Okay, but let's be honest here for a sec.
Mm-hmm.
That's not always easy.
No, it's not.
We live in a world that often feels like it's pushing against faith.
It does.
So how do we stand out as Jesus's people without feeling like we're constantly battling against the current?
Right. And I think the speaker totally understood that.
Okay.
Remember, they were speaking to Timothy during a time of real persecution, social unrest.
Yeah.
They knew what it meant to live out your faith when the culture around you is not really embracing it.
So it's about finding that balance then.
It is.
Between staying true to what you believe, but also engaging with the world around you.
Yes, exactly. It's not about isolating ourselves or becoming judgmental.
Okay.
It's about holding on to our beliefs, but also, seeking understanding.
Yeah.
Building bridges, finding common ground with people who might see things differently.
And I imagine that looks different for everyone.
It does.
There's no one right way to do it.
Exactly. It depends on your personality, your circumstances, the opportunities you have.
For sure. For some people, it might be, serving their community, volunteering their time, speaking up for justice.
Right.
For others, it might be, just being kind and compassionate.
Yeah, just in their everyday interactions.
Yeah. Being that light.
Being that encouragement. in a dark world.
It's those little things sometimes.
It is the everyday stuff.
Yeah, those little ways that we live out our faith,
Exactly. Letting our actions speak louder than words.
I like that.
Embodying the values that we believe in, even when it's hard.
Wow. This has been such an eye-opening deep dive.
It has.
We started with this simple image of a safe.
I know, right?
And we ended up talking about these huge questions about character and faith and how we live in the world.
It's amazing what you can unpack from just a small piece of text.
It really is. And it's amazing how much wisdom and guidance we can find in these ancient texts.
Absolutely.
It reminds us that the Bible, it's not just some dusty old book.
Right.
It's alive.
It is.
It's a source of inspiration for us today.
Couldn't agree more. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I just want to leave our listeners with this thought. How might you embrace this call to be Jesus's people in your own way?
Yeah. What gifts and talents do you have that you can use to make the world a little bit brighter, a little bit kinder?
Yeah, a little more compassionate.
That's a great challenge to leave us with.
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.